Does this rock at long last hold the response to the subject of life? The NASA rover has found a puzzling rock on Mars that shows the red planet could indeed have supported extraterrestrial life. The stone is embellished with some dim, line tracks that contain iron and phosphorus. Interestingly, such leopard spots on Earth are normally produced by microorganisms. So, have we at last found the microbial inhabitants of Mars? What conclusions can be drawn from this unique discovery, and could our neighboring planet actually be harboring extraterrestrial life forms? Well, incredibly, the possibilities of this are not at all bad. Specialists have recently found a tremendous supply of liquid water beneath Mars, which, in their assessment, could support a life-friendly world. What do Albert Einstein's theory of relativity and an electrifying find on Mars have in common? That's right. In both cases, it's Einstein's resemble, a rock that has the scientific world holding its breath. But all jokes aside, what Perseverance found on the surface of Mars a couple of months ago does indeed have the potential to make it into the cosmic history books. The main point, however, is that the NASA rover has been on Mars since February 18, 2021, where it has been taking a close look at the terrain and rocks of the Jezero crater. And, of course, this isn't just any randomly chosen landing and research site, but an area of nearly 50 kilometers in size, which was formed by a meteorite impact in the distant past. Until 3.8 billion years ago, it still contained a fully mature crater lake with feeders. It is now undisputed that cool fluid once sloshed in overflow on the red planet. However, the question of where all the Martian water has gone over time is somewhat more questionable. Well, that is, assuming it has vanished by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, truth be told, a new research study has come to the notable conclusion that the water has in no way disappeared immediately and inexplicably, but has simply moved underground. But more on that later. While Perseverance is examining the former stream delta in the Jezero crater, it's expected to collect material samples for transport back to Earth, on one hand. On the other hand, it's searching for potential signs of ancient Martian life. Also, as NASA reported in July of this year, the rover might have hit the jackpot. The rover ran across a very exceptional rock formation on the northern edge of the old river valley of Nida, which had never been seen before on Mars. More specifically, the object of interest is a rock about 1 meter long and 60 centimeters wide, which scientists have named Shava Falls. This rock stands out with some tail-like markings. This is not the situation with the expansive white sulfate veins, between which an unmistakably darker, reddish material lies, showing the presence of hematite. This is generally normal in and of itself, as this iron oxide mineral is hardly surprising on Mars. However, this doesn't apply to the many spots a couple of millimeters in size that are embedded in the dark hematite deposits. And while the small spots appear as sporadically formed, dirty white specks, they are surrounded by rings of dark material. The most puzzling, complex, and possibly significant rock discovered by Perseverance, subsequent examinations have shown that the dark rings contain iron and phosphate. What might sound to us, simple humans, like just an exhausting list of land contents has the scientists excited. Ken Farley of the California Institute of Technology emphasizes that Shava Falls represents nothing less than the first unequivocal proof of organic material on Mars. But that's not all. Simultaneously, Farley also describes the formation as the most confounding, complex, and possibly most significant rock Perseverance has analyzed up to this point. This is for the simple but exciting reason that the colored leopard spots could indicate chemical processes that microbial life forms use as an energy source. The spectrometer examinations showed that the spots and their surroundings contain organic carbon compounds. And along with the phosphates and the iron, they are significantly more suggestive of those traces that are often associated with microbial activity on Earth. Specifically, the earthly spot makers are often organisms that have left their fossilized remains in the subsurface. Iron and phosphate are typically produced when microorganisms reduce iron oxide. And as mentioned, Shava Falls was discovered in an environment that was much wetter billions of years ago, and thus, it may have created the best conditions for microbial life to thrive. But what does the discovery of the rock mean? In response, Perseverance has now answered one of the oldest questions of humankind. whether Earth is truly the only celestial body in the universe to have produced life, with a resounding no. Well, not entirely, because the reality too includes the fact that, while organic molecules on Earth often come from microorganisms, they can also be formed by geochemical, abiotic processes that don't require the involvement of living things. For example, we are aware of such compounds being formed in the context of volcanic activity. If the material from Shava Falls was also heated by magma, we would have to quickly discard the possibility of small Martian inhabitants. In fact, a grain of the mineral olivine, which is considered a key component of magma, has even been identified in the rock in question. But it remains perplexing because the simple fact that there was once volcanism in this region doesn't mean that the leopard spots can't come from microorganisms. The Martian mystery, as we can see, still holds many unexplained issues for us. And unfortunately, this won't change much anytime soon. That's because the scientists point out that they have largely exhausted their remote sensing methods. In total, Perseverance has already bombarded the rock with lasers and X-rays and shot it from every possible angle to understand the secrets the Martian rock truly holds. To fully comprehend its nature, scientists need to study it very closely. And that's only possible once the relevant samples have been transported back to our blue home planet. However, when the day of return transport arrives, specialists will be able to use high-precision scientific instruments to determine if we are really dealing with the fossilized work of Martian microorganisms or just the result of volcanic activity. And incredibly, it might still be that Mars hasn't stopped its volcanic activity after all. According to seismic data from the Mars InSight mission, it has been strongly suggested that magma chambers may still exist beneath the red planet. But this is neither the only nor the most energizing mystery that Mars' understanding has uncovered underneath the outer layer of our planetary neighbor, on the grounds that the test data also demonstrates that an immense fluid water supply is concealed at a profundity of 11 kilometers, and by gigantic, we really mean immense. As per the specialists, how much secret water would be enough to form a planet traversing sea 1 to 2 kilometers deep? As mentioned briefly before, the question of where the water of the red planet has vanished to is one of the greatest mysteries of current Mars research. Until around a decade ago, there were still streams, lakes, and even a large sea there, but then an extraordinary environmental change shut the life-accommodating part of Mars. Furthermore, the waters vanished from the rosy, gleaming surface. Since the polar ice caps and the water ice in the middle latitudes are not nearly large enough to store all the water from the previous Martian ocean, many analysts have long believed that most of the water basically vanished into space. After all, it should have been easy for the solar wind to grab portions of the atmosphere and hence the cool water into space due to the lack of a magnetic field. Now, anyway, Vashon Wright's team at the University of California in San Diego has reached the conclusion that the water loss can also be possibly explained in another way. The water might not have vanished by any means, but rather saturated the depths of the Martian exterior. To test this intriguing hypothesis, the scientists assessed data from Marsquakes collected by Mars InSight in the Elysium region between 2018 and 2022. In fact, the seismological data had already revealed that there is barely any water in the Martian crust at the corresponding landing site, but only down to a depth of around 300 meters. However, Wright and his associates literally looked further underground and realized that under the dusty, dry, cold surface of the planet, there is, for sure, a trickling mystery. Could Mars still be home to life? On one hand, the studies showed that the Martian core crust is indeed permeable and sprinkled with cavities, as previously expected. On the other hand, the seismic data suggests that these fine cracks and clefts are filled with fluid water. In fact, these natural water tanks are probably going to make up around 177% of the rock there. Or, as such, the gathered data can best be explained by the fact that the planet's core exterior contains water in abundance. For the sake of completeness, it should be mentioned that this is only the case if the research results are representative not just for the area of the Mars test, but also for the rest of the planet. However, if so, and that is the intriguing thing, the red planet could have a huge groundwater repository stored in its deep stone pores. Furthermore, Considering that the estimated amount of water in this situation is enough to flood the entire planet to a depth of 1 to 2 kilometers, another astonishing question emerges. Could extraterrestrial living things be found in the underground water of Mars? Well, the specialists answer this question with a simple yet charming, what difference would it make? After all, we shouldn't forget that even on Earth, there are animals that can easily resist even the most extreme conditions, like complete darkness and a lack of oxygen. Michael Manga from the University of Berkeley, who was involved in the study as a co-author, can be quoted as follows: "Since water is a necessity for life as we know it, I fail to understand why the underground reservoir of Mars shouldn't also be a life-friendly environment. While we have yet to find any evidence of life on Mars, we now at least have a place that would, in principle, allow life. And we now have a spot for you that would allow you to never miss another video from us again. With a single click, press then approve and subscribe now to stay up to date from here on out. We'll see you soon.